Welcome everyone. We are waiting for the participants to join and Honorable BC Sir to join and my college principal to join, and we will wait for some 5 minutes to everyone to join, and then we will start. So just wait for some minutes and the formal beginning of this webinar will be done. So now, as we have gathered here, I can view all my literary guests here. I really appreciate that they are on time. And there is a famous saying that we Indians don't come on time, and it seems that is happening. I can see the main speaker of today, the invited speaker, Honorable Elizabeth Marino ma'am. She has joined us. The eminent guest, Dr. Mamta Rani, Principal R.S.S Mahila College, and the esteemed speaker who was present in my last webinar, Dr. Madhavi Nigam. She has also joined. I'm really thankful to you all that you all had joined on the spot notice that I have sent you. Thank you so much, everyone. And I will request everyone to, since this webinar is going live on YouTube, please don't make your video to be shared. Or if you want to be visible on the screen, please follow the decency and etiquettes of the new normal on the web. So I'm waiting for some more guests to join, and then we will start. होस्ट से क्या मतलब? कॉल करो ना, ये हमारे यहाँ के प्रिंसिपल ना ज्वाइन कर पा रहे हैं, देखो ये सब है, बोले थे ज्वाइन। I think we are getting late. So now on the behalf of R.S.S Mahila College, Department of English, myself, Dr. Patna Kumari, and I am HOD of this college. And we have organized this 3-day international webinar based on bees, poetry, and pluralities, or discourse. So I extend my warm wishes to all the participants and all esteemed guests, especially Elisabetta Marino. She has joined us all over from Italy. And our next esteemed guest and speaker, Madhvi Nikam. She has joined us also in my prior webinar. And my mentor and my ideal, Dr. Mamta Rani. And since today there is a formal announcement that VC sir has some prior engagement, that's why he couldn't join us. And my principal sir, he is also busy in some meeting, so he will join later. And further, he will address the gathering, auspicious gathering here on this new normal webinar. We are all on virtual platforms. So now, as we start our day with praying the deity, the muse of our Indian philosophy, Hindu mythology, Saraswati. So now we are going to view a dance video recorded because now it is the new normal, and this dance is performed by my two students from English department. They are in TDC part 1, Sweta and Nidhi. So enjoy this dance performance by them. So all over to the host. I'll request AYAN, the host for this webinar, please share the video of the dance, Saraswati Vandana. And I will request honorable guests, Dr. Mamta Rani ma'am, Dr. Madhvi Nikam ma'am, Elizabeth Marino, please open your video. Click on the video icon and you will be there. The spotlight will be on you. Thank you, ma'am. I request Mamta Rani ma'am. Please.
Are you getting me?
Yes, ma'am. Your voice is very.
But the video is yet not started, as it says. The host has.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. I have given the permission. Start the video. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Now,
thank you so much. Yes, ma'am.
Just a minute. Hold on. Let me mute my phone as well, because it will be disturbing a lot.
Yes, ma'am. This will create some unnecessary noise.
And that on that phone, I'm not getting the link. And this phone is all the time. This is in use, so this will be ringing throughout my deliberation. But I will. First of all, I must say sorry, because I will be leaving this inaugural session very soon. I have to attend one more meeting. So, respected honorable chief guest of this inaugural session, though he is not present here, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Bhimrao Ambedkar Bihar University, the organizing college principal, Chanchal ji. I think she is the principal there.
No, ma'am. Here we have Upender Kumar Chaudhary, sir. UK, sir.
Sorry. So, Honorable Upender Kumar Chaudhary ji, the organizing, the host of the seminar, Arpana, my younger sister, and all the participants who have joined. I don't know the names of each and every one. And what's happening? Are you getting me?
Yes, ma'am. You are loud and clear.
I'm
yes,
audible.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. You are audible.
So I would start my discourse with the famous lines of WB. It's second coming. He has written there, the falcon cannot hear the falconer, things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Today, the world is also full of passion, but this passion is not for virtues, rather, this is for vices. This is the age of conflict, conflict over boundaries, conflict over issues, policies. This is the era of social and emotional conflict as well. Somewhere in a newspaper, I had one article, and that was under the lines: even children are coming under attack in that conflict across the world. We cannot accept this as a new normal. So, what's the new normal? The discourse begins from here towards the new normal. Now, throughout the ages, raising voice against the atrocities, against the vices, against the injustice had been the trend of literature. Nowadays, being the voice for marginalized is the new normal. Being the voice for the unheard is the new normal. So, today's discourse is very much you can say very much right. It is very it's a burning topic, it's a burning issue, and we must speak about it. We must Hello, this is the problem. I will be getting throughout the day. I will be getting calls, so I don't know how to stop it. But if it is, there will be a bit disturbance. So you please bear with me. So I was talking about the new normals, that is raising voice, being the voice of subaltern, being the voice of unheard people. Now in this era of science, science has progressed a lot. We have achieved a lot. We are at the top. But what about our peace? We are still in need of, we are still searching for the peace. And this is the topic today we are discussing here. Now, again, I would like to quote some lines by John Lennon. He has written in his poem Imagine, he has written, imagine there is no countries, it is not hard to do, nothing to kill or die for, and no religion to imagine all the people living life in peace. So everyone is just after peace, everyone through different ways. The place they want to reach is attaining peace. And people, the writers of the modern generation, they are also writing in the same pace, in the same field, in the same, and especially we are talking here about poetry, the one genre of literature. With through poetry, people are talking about peace. Again, we have Emily Dickinson. In her poem, I many times thought peace had come. She says about it. She dreams an utopian world where the peace is everywhere. When Aaron Tagore speaks about peace, he also says, peace, my heart. So this topic, peace, poetry, and pluralities, it is very much relevant today, and we are discussing here on this topic. I won't say much thing, but I would like to say certain things about the modern age and the present time. In this pandemic also, we have seen writers writing upon love and peace. There are poems written by one Indian writer, Nikhil Maldev. He writes about the peace we have attained during this era of Corona. And that is very relevant to talk about because we are very much haunted by this disease, Corona, and everywhere people are just isolated, they are segregated from their normal life, but what they have attained is peace there. So that poetry tells specifically, that tells about this peace, that during these days we are not roaming outside, we have less tension of our work, and inside the house we are just, the conflict between the relation has come to an end, and we are enjoying family life. And we this is really the summary of the poem. That's a long poem written by Nikhil Maldev, but what he focuses upon, that is the peace. So at modern age, we are standing at the verge of third world war. And why this third world war is there? That is due to the conflict, as I stated earlier. That is the conflict over the boundaries, the conflict over the gains, the conflict over the credits, the conflict over the damages, and these has led to quarrel upon such a trivial thing and forgetting what is the life meant for. There is a great threat to humanity, and everywhere we are listening, we are not listening, rather we are here bearing, we are suffering from terrorism, we are suffering from foreign attacks, we are suffering from such things, such quarrels all over the world. So this is the time that the writers should come, because this has become the duty of the writers to sow the society a mirror and to reflect in that mirror what's going in the society. This is not only the only work of the writers. Writers are also supposed to give solutions through their art, through their genre to the society, how to come out of that. And really, poetry has this power to attract the soul of the people, to attract the emotion of the people, and through the poetry, we can present the social scenario and the solution of this scenario. So this topic is so vast. I don't know from where to start and from where to end, because peace itself is a very big topic. Poetry is here, and again the pluralities, and this pluralities just it has a very big arena, and subalterns are there, marginalized peoples are there, sexually harassed people are there. So all their voices have become together, and that is in the form of poetry. If we go through the poems of today's poet, we will find it how how you can say they are penetrating deep, and they are getting the voices of the unheard. And so I think I must not take much of time, because I have to attend one more meeting, and I would rather like to present a whole paper on it, but in a great hurry. I was told to address this inaugural session, so not much today, but I think tomorrow again I will be there with my paper to join you people there in this webinar, and just carry on. Arpna, my all blessings are with you. I think the people will go through a nice discourse, a great vista of new idea, what's being written in today's poems, today's poetry, that will come, and that will really give good stuff to the research scholars, that will give ideas, new ideas to the research scholars as well. So this is a nice topic, and I think I needed a bit more preparations for today's this webinar, this station. But since I'm in a great hurry, I have to attend a very urgent meeting. So I beg your pardon. You all people just allow me to take my other responsibilities. And again, all blessings and all wishes for the great success of this seminar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Uh, Despite the paucity of time, you have deliberately, as usual, extempore, and that's so nice of you. I remember one incidence of class, university class, when I was in PG, and you were describing some uh, text, and that was Dravahu Sudasrath, and it was so mesmerizing that I was really mesmerized to hear that explanation. And for that day, you are for me ideal, and you know that I always admire you, and I always say these.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Arpana, because this is a vast topic. I wanted to speak on peace, but I think tomorrow I will be able to join you, and then I will have a nice discourse with all of you. And today I just want leave of you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Just 1 minute. Just 1 minute. Be with us. I want to share from Ramayana some quotes. Gurupad Raj Mridu Manjal Anjan. Gurupad Raj Mridu Manjul Anjan. Nayan Amiyadrig Dosh Vibhanjan. Tahi kari Bimal Vivek Bilochan. Varnahu Ram Charit Bhav Mochan. And these lines, for since we have international speakers with us, I will explain that in these lines, it is from Ramcharitmanas by Tulsidas. In these lines, he expressed the importance of Guru and mentors. You can say mentor. And we have a kind of a Guru Shishya Parampara in our tradition. And it is, I really admire that. Really admire that. It is not about the religion which you follow. No, it's not about the Hinduism. It is about that bond, that is between disciple and the guru. This tradition has been vanishing somehow because there are so many reasons. I'm not going into that. But since Mamta Rani ma'am had to go for a meeting, and she's principal, and she's quite active at all platforms, and she's always there. When you call, just you need to call her or a message. She's always there for you. Either you have some personal issues, or you have some academic issues, or you are uh, anywhere, you're stuck anywhere. There is always one hope, and for
Thank
me,
you.
that, that is.
Thank you very much, Arpana. And I could see that. Can you listen me? I'm
Yes,
audible.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am, you're quite
I
audible.
could see that many young people have joined this webinar. So I wish you all success. Telling that young people living in conflict use poetry to express their hope for a more peaceful future. So I wish you the best for the coming future, and also the best for this webinar. This should, I hope this should bring a new idea, a new way to think about and to write about. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Now we will, since we have to start with Saraswati Vandana, that is composed by my students. Now this is playing on your screen. Please enjoy. The text here is Ya Kundendu Tushar Har Dhavla. I need to comment here. This is the thing which you are going to see here is the first thing which you are seeing on your screen is uh, 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 text from Sanskrit. Ya kundendu tushar har dhavla, ya subra vastravrita, ya veena vardand mandit kara, ya swet padmashana, ya brahma chitra shankar pravati dev sada Patu Bhagavati Nishes Jadyapa. This is the prayer of goddess Saraswati. So now I'm playing the video. Music, I
And there was no sound.
okay. Let me see. Uh, there is some issue with there is technical error here. Let me see that. Just give me some minutes. Uh, this is the music. I think there is some technical error here. Um, this is the poem. This written by Vidyapati. This is the poem written by Vidyapati, and the girls are performing on this. So I think there is some technical error here. We will try to sort it out, and then we will start it streaming in the end of uh, uh, the address by the guest. So now I'll request the participant, please don't scribble on the screen. If we find someone scribbling on the screen, we will remove them from this meeting. So please be cautious. Now I will ask Dr. Madhvi ma'am to please address this auspicious gathering on this virtual platform. Dr. Madhvi Nigam, ma'am.
Ma'am, my audio, my video is muted, I think, from your side. So if that can be,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I have granted the
yeah, I think,
permission.
I think I've got the permission now. Uh,
So
okay,
the
a very good
scholars,
afternoon. Yeah, a very good afternoon to one and all. I would like to thank, Arpana Kumari ma'am for inviting me once again. Uh, At the outset, let me congratulate the Department of English for organizing this 3-day international webinar on peace, poetry, and pluralities, a discourse by R.S.S Mahila College, Sitamarhi, the Department of English. I would like to thank the principal, Dr. U.K. Chaudhary sir, the chief patron as well, Prasad Prasad Pandey sir, and the other team members who have helped in making this webinar see the light of the day. Friends, let me begin with paying my homage to the father of the nation, Bapu, Mahatma Gandhi, for his 151st birth anniversary. And as we know, we all believe that ahimsa paramo dharma, like as Arpana ma'am has rightly pointed out, we the Indians believe in the culture, the tradition that we have been following for years together, and that is why when we are celebrating 151st uh, you know birth anniversary of the father of the nation, I would like to begin with quoting him, where he says, "Ahimsa paramo dharma." Like our dharma, apna dharma jo hai, okay, it is ahimsa, non-violence, is our religion. Humanity is our religion. Understanding each other is our religion. Our religion is to be humanitarian. Our religion is to be philanthropic. Our religion is to see to it that we help each other in the discourse, okay, of being human beings to a greater extent. When it comes to a webinar like this on peace, poetry, and pluralities, and on such an auspicious day like 2nd of October, it really makes me think about, are we really heading towards promoting universal peace through literature? Is the present literature helping us promote the universal peace, the universal brotherhood, which we are expecting as educated, literate, or members of the teaching fraternity? Peace has to be a part and parcel of everybody's life, including nature, because we have to be environment conscious. Okay, so protection of nature is also another essential thing which we must discuss on such a platform. Safeguarding children's and human rights, eradicating poverty, eradicating illiteracy, and if all these things, like as Mamta Rani ma'am has rightly pointed out, we have to think about the marginalized, we have to think about the people who are subalterns, we have to talk about people who are on the margin, and people who are on the periphery and not at the center need more attention from our side, who feel or who are empowered to a greater extent. And that is why poetry can become a medium. Poetry definitely can become a medium of fortifying the harmonious and a cosmopolitan culture that will bring human beings together on a platform that may be more uh, peaceful, that may be more loving, that may be more caring, that may be very, very we have to think that we have to be harmonious towards the nature itself, because the poetry or verse as a form of a literary genre has to see to it that it dedicates entirely to not only romanticism or to philosophy as such, but it has to deal with everything that comes under the sun. And that is why when we are discussing such an important issue on such an important platform like this, and we are going to talk a little bit about pluralities. I think Arpana ma'am has given me 10 minutes to speak. I think I'll just be a little fast to cover up my points. But then projecting and fortifying the harmonious and cosmopolitan culture that we all are a part and parcel of at this moment. We are going through the pandemic, and not only the pandemic. Are we see? Initially, it was thought that being in peace means not having a war. A country not facing a war was called as being peaceful, but now we are fighting war at n number of levels, on so many levels that we ourselves are really shocked to learn the present scenario. If you see the incident that has happened recently, that has shaken all of us, the incident in Hathras, where a young girl was, unfortunately, she was ill treated, she was raped, and she was killed. Now, peace does not lie only in not having a war. Peace lies in everything that we are dealing with in day to day life. The pandemic has literally shaken us so badly that we really have learned what really we should have, what are our needs, and what can fall into luxury. Whether we should buy certain things out of necessity or we should buy it as luxury. So the philosophical message that is required, the philosophy that poetry can really, preach, the philosophy that poetry can really teach us is something which we have to think on such a great platform that is provided to us. And that is why aspirations and aspirations to inspire, to transform as human beings to some extent through such webinars, through such platforms is highly essential. I repeat that we have to inspire, we have to transform ourselves to understand each other as human beings, basically. Because until and unless this philanthropy does not is not ingrained in the psychology of men and women, I'm not being gender biased here, I'm saying both. As far as we are not true to our own self and don't inspire ourselves to transform ourselves as human being, at least to some extent, such platforms will not really give the credit should go to such platforms. And that is why I feel when we talk of the Indian poetry, let us talk of the Bhakti movement. Okay, being from Maharashtra, I would like to refer to Bhakti movement, where, like Mamta Rani ma'am has said, we speak of the marginalized, we speak of the Dalits, we speak of the downtrodden, the marginalized, and that is why in Bhakti movement, when we speak of religion, religion brings in peace. But then this religion has to be religion of being a human being. This religion cannot be just in black and white. This religion has to be of understanding. This religion has to be of loving each other. This religion has to be of sacrifice for each other. This religion has to be there for understanding what others may feel for us and what we may feel for others. So this is being more emotional as well as more practical, and this is something we have to imbibe in our next generation. That is what is my personal opinion. When we go back to the Indian culture and when we go back to our first very loved Henry Thoreau, or maybe Arbindo or Sarojini Naidu or Michael Madhusudan Dutt, no, or Toru Dutt again. These are the poets who have given us so much. If we read, we'll find nature, we find peace, we find culture, we find our tradition, we find our Indian, the Sanskrit shlokas. So, or even A.K. Ramanujan, for example, how beautifully temples are being portrayed through A.K. Ramanujan's, his real worth as a poet comes when he is expressing that there is no other religion that is bigger or better than being a human. And that is why when we think of Sarojini Naidu, be it Sarojini Naidu or be it Toru Dutt, so peace and prosperity comes through poems. It comes through verse because verse as a form of literature or a literary genre was accepted very graciously in the initial stages, and it became a pioneering genre where everybody understood. And that is why when we speak of the Indian poems and poetry, especially poems of R. Parthasarthi, Jayant Mahapatra, Dom Morris, Kamla Das, or even the most contemporary like Meena Kandasamy or Nikhil Maldev, whom just now Mamta Rani ma'am has also mentioned about, or be it Dilip Chitre, be it Arun Kolhatkar. Now, see, when I'm talking about Arun Kolhatkar and when I speak of his Jesuri, Jesuri is a poem which speaks of religion. It speaks of a temple that is situated near Pune, a place near Saswad. Jesuri, and he speaks of religion, but what kind of religion? He takes us, he takes us back to mythology. He tells us how mythology, how what you do as human being in your past birth. Okay, also what you do in your past birth. See, though we don't believe, we are scientific and we know 2 plus 2 makes 4, but then when it comes to reading such poems or like Jesuri by Arun Kolhatkar, he is the one who makes us aware that whatever we are going to sow, we are going to reap. And that is why this consciousness or this conscience of doing good, this mindset of doing good to others has to be cultivated in the minds of the generation to come from such a sort of platform. And we have to discuss about peace basically, and this peace may be physical, mental, emotional. Because what we want today in today's world is we need to search our own independent self, and that is why self introspection is something which is very essential, and which will surely come from such sort of discourses. And that is why when we speak of Eunice D'Souza, or when you speak of Giv Patel, or you have poems of very very contemporary writers, as I said, you have Mina Alexander, you have Mina Kandasamy, you have a poet whose poems are prescribed for our syllabus also in Mumbai University, a poet like Aparna Lanzewar, okay, or we have a poet like her daughter Jyoti Lanzewar. So we are trying to have a discourse where more and more humanitarian, philanthropic attitude towards nature, towards human being are to be discussed, and that is why very very young very young poets have a reference. They go back to the Bhakti movement, where you have Sant Tukaram, you have Sant Chokha Mela, or maybe in Hindi you have Kabir, or Kabir ke Dohe, and you have Sufi poems, okay, Sufism. You have to learn all this. Sufism, what does Sufism tell us? Sufism tells us to search your own inner self, because when you are one with your own self, you will be able to reach God. So you'll be able to reach God. When you say you'll be able to reach God, you are trying to find peace. When will you really get the joy of reaching to God? When you'll help somebody else. So this sort of discourse has to be into existence, along with a major scientific approach to all those things that we are discussing on such a platform. And initially, when I mentioned a few things like being humanitarian, being conscious, being harmonious with nature, there are trends that are setting in, because there is a poet like you have DC Chambial. DC Chambial also is bringing us more close to the humanitarian aspect of life, where he says we all are becoming like robots, we are all becoming like machines, we are becoming robotics, because here we are lacking emotions. We are lacking emotions for each other. We are lacking feelings for each other, and that is why Dilip Chitre, Keki Daruwala, or Jayant Mahapatra, or Dom Morris, these poets, okay, who have given us a wonderful culture, who like these poets who have projected beautiful culture to us through their writings. The Indian literature is immense, as madam has said initially. It's immense, and that is why we have to carve out a niche for ourselves as artists, as poets, and also as teachers, because we are also sculptors. We are going to frame, we are going to carve, and make a sculpture to the young scholars, young researchers who are in and around us. And as mentioned, we have to see to it that many teachers who are attending this program also should agree, I feel, that a poet like Rabindranath Tagore, Sarojini Naidu, or even if I'm not exaggerating myself, even Meena Kandasamy. Meena Kandasamy is also making us aware of the things that we are going to really face in the forthcoming days. Friends, when we are looking at peace, I won't take much time, because I think I'm running out of time. I just would like to mention here before I shut down. I just would like to mention about one more poet whom I really loved, whom I have read, and I really felt that all of you all must read once at least, and none other than Aga Shahid Ali. Aga Shahid Ali's poems, when you read, see, all of us have the image of Kashmir. All of us feel that once in lifetime we must visit Kashmir. Once in lifetime we can go visit Kashmir, see its beauty, be a part and parcel of it, have beautiful apples from Kashmir. All of us feel, because for us Kashmir is a dream. But if you go and talk to the people of Kashmir who really stay there, it is not a dream for them. It is rather a nightmare for them. Why? Because of the existing or the violence that is there. And until and unless violence is not removed, okay, until unless there is no until there is no peace, I don't think so anything can become a dream. That is why sometimes the present situation, the burns that we are all going through, even in the pandemic, or like all these things are to be thought as not only an individual or as a teacher, but basically as parents. What are we going to give to our kids? What are we going to like have with us when our kids will grow, and when they'll ask that what we have really done for them? So such discourses, such platforms, such lyrics and lyrical ballads that we have, where we pass on information, when we pass on myths, mythology, the stories from one generation to another, we as teachers are definitely going to play a very, very vital role in bringing in more peace. So there has to be a sensitization, okay, and a sort of harmonious relationship between human beings and nature, between human beings and the modernity. Because now, as I said, ahimsa paramo dharma, ahimsa is the main religion for all of us. Similarly, I would also like to mention that this religion has to be the religion of human beings. It has to be humanitarian. So not standing much between the other speaker and I think I should stop here. There is so much to speak, and this is actually an open umbrella where all of us can really have an entire discourse for more than 3 days, as she has already planned. So I like to thank precisely the organizers for giving me the second opportunity to be connected to all of you all. Thank you so much to all the organizers, to the entire team, to the students who have wonderfully prepared the Vandana, and the Saraswati Vandana, Yakunde Tushara Haradhavala, Ya Shubra Vastramruta. So this Shubra Vastra is a symbol of peace. This Shubra Vastra is a symbol of peace. White color stands for peace, and that is why I wish all of you all have a wonderful day ahead in the webinar, the next 2 days as well. Let it be peaceful. Let all of us have peace bestowed upon us by nature and by God. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Due to some technical errors, we couldn't play last time. So now, as ma'am has wished, or she has described about this Vandana, I am going to play this again, because earlier, due to some technical glitches, we can't play it perfectly. This Vandana, which I am sharing with you, is also a poem written by Vidyapati. See, he belongs to Mithila, and he write in Mathili. And this poem, which the girls are going to mm, dance, is on based on that poem, and it has been sung by a famous lok gaika Padma Shri Sarda Sinha. So please enjoy that. This is a visual feast for all of you. Please do enjoy. ओके अब ने मत प्ले करना हो गया ये स्क्रीन बंद करो रे स्क्रीन बंद करो ना uh, I'll request everyone, please don't scribble on the screen. If I find again someone scribbling on the screen, he or she will be never admitted to this meeting in present or future. So I think there are some technical glitches here. That's why we can't find the music on the uh, player on the platform which we are sharing. But let me explain the meaning which of it is this dance or this poem written by Vidyapati has deeper meaning. I think the people who belong to Bihar, they must have listened to it so many times because the Lokaika Sarda Sinha's voice is so popular here, and I am I have danced on this when I was in my student life, and when I was student, I randomly, whenever there was a function of my school, I belong to Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya Muzaffarpur, or either I was NSS volunteer in MSKB. Everywhere where I find a chance, I have performed on Saraswati Vandana. And this form of dance, through this, and through this particular song, which is called Jai Jai Bhairavi Asur Bhayavuni, this song has a deeper connotation, which is described in the local language Mathili. And thank you. I can see on the screen Nika ma'am is here, and obviously we have taken so much time of you, ma'am. This is the new normal. Due to some technical glitches, we can't join on time, and I really regret for that. Um, Now I will share screen of the message which VC sir has sent since he is not able to join us. And this is the message of sir for saying for the grand success of this webinar. क्यों बंद कर दे रहा है? Sent Subkamna Sandesh, and it has reached me just now. And he has sent regret that he couldn't join because VC sir of Magad Mahila University has come for a sudden visit. And on this note, I will now play the video of our principal, the patron of our college, uh, from which I get so much inspiration. So now I will, because he couldn't join us for various technical glitches. So let me share his video. Please bear with me. Stop. Stop sharing the room. Sorry for the technical errors that are coming in. Today, here is downpour, and that's why the network is weak here. Uh, Now, I will play the video of my mentor, Dr. Kale Singh. He also couldn't join due to the network errors we are facing here, because here it is raining cats and dogs, so it can't be helped. So I will play that video. वो देखने दो, यही पे रहो थोड़ा. Please bear with me. There are some technical glitches. We are sorting it out. यहाँ पे stop करो. ऑडियो सेटिंग देखो. म्यूट करो म्यूट करो ना. म्यूट करो. बोलने दो उसको. Stop share. बोल दिए, अभी तो कर ही रहा है. तो वो हम लोग का कंट्रोल उस पे नहीं रहता है. Sorry for the technical glitches we are bearing. This is also the new normal. When in the webinar, or it is the webinar, and when in seminar, we find so much of difficulties when some guests come late, then there is some electricity cut, and now this is the new normal that when you counter that you have a weak network or there is some technical glitches. So we have to adapt with this. Uh, so as for now, since we have while Madhvi ma'am was delivering her lecture and Mamta Rani ma'am was also delivering some lectures, I saw some questions there that was so interesting, and I find it so interesting and I want to answer this. Someone asked that uh, how this poetry is going to influence the younger generations. Uh, Whoever has asked, I'm forgetting her name, but nowadays when I visit the social medias, I find so many young writers there. So many young writers. They write novels, short stories. They are writing poems, and they are so mesmerizing. I found it in each language. In each language, I found it in English, in local language. And on this point, I want to mention some emerging voices of Bihar. You must have heard about Neha Rathod. She has become viral these days. She has been singing songs and she has been writing it by herself. And she writes on contemporary issues. One song is, uh, it is an Bhojpuri language which we speak in Bihar. And she says, it is very famous song of her. And there she says, I will just recite some lines of her song. हेलो हेलो सरकार बिहार से बेरोजगार बोला तानी. And this is what we are finding, that there are so many unemployed youths here. And she has aptly described the pain, the agony that they are feeling. And she aptly describes the agony of the unemployed. And the one other voice, which is from my state, Mathili Thakur. She is now the new YouTube sensation from my area. And they aptly discern the pain, the agony, the beautiful poetry by Vidyapati, and so many folklores, folk songs. And it is that which is the need of the hour. We need these voices to be heard. In academia, we many times arise the question, can subalterns speak? So it is now no new issue that subalterns speak. Yes, subalterns do speak, but now the matter is that the voice is being unheard. The recent incidents of Hathras is quite, I can say it is such heinous crime. And I really get so much pained that on one day we are celebrating Daughter's Day. On one day we are celebrating Navratra. We are worshipping the ladies, the females as Shakti. But on the other day, what happens? This is really, really saddening. Now, it's not the issue that women voices are not being there. They are, the voices are there. But now the issue is that justice is not. So now the issue is not that these subaltern, the marginalized, can't speak. Yes, they do speak, but the now contemporary issue is that the voices are being unheard. They don't get justice. They are smothered. And there are so many cases, and there are so many, I don't want to drag this seminar in any controversy. You can find so many examples daily in the newspaper. And now when such a crime occurs, the media, they say, this is the new normal. This is no big issue. Why to give so much attention? Why to give the spotlight? And this is the paradox. Being a woman, I deeply feel hurt when we see such issues. And now this is not that only that the uneducated ones have such a mentality, but the educated one. If you have recently gone through the whatever happening in Bollywood, either I don't want to name anyone, either it is Kangana or either it is Ria, either anyone, any girl or any man, even a man, they are treated like a news piece. They are treated as they are witch hunted. And here the witch is not only the females, the males are also witch hunted. But I firmly believe in womanism. I have done research on Alice Walker, and she has kept this term womanism. And I really appreciate that if this kind of message can be spread in the society, that is needed vehemently, that we must support our women. Now, recently I have read a poem and which I have shared today on my FB profile, and it says about women empowerment. And we have heard so much about women empowerment, and whenever such rape incidents happen, there are candle march, there's so many things. And let me recite some lines of this poem. महिला सशक्तिकरण का नारा कुछ फैशन सा बन गया है. महिला सशक्तिकरण का नारा कुछ फैशन सा बन गया है. हर कोई इसका लबादा पहन मॉडर्न सा बन गया है. शक्ति का स्रोत खुद ही है वो, उसका सशक्तिकरण तुम क्या करोगे? जीवन की जननी है वो, उसके जीवन का उद्धार तुम क्या करोगे? परिवार को जो परिवार बनाए वो वात्सल्य भरा व्यवहार है जो, उसके वात्सल्य का वेतन अदा तुम क्या करोगे? विपदा आए तो दुर्गा रूप में दुर्गा बचाए, मत ललकारो उस दुर्गा को कि फिर महिषासुर के वध को बाध्य हो जाए. मीरा की भक्ति में निहित शक्ति है वो, मणिकर्णिका बन मंचलों को मुखी खिलवाए. स्त्री है तुम, स्त्री हो तुम, हर रूप में शक्तिशाली हो तुम। खुद को निरीह अबला समझना छोड़ दो, सहभागिनी हो, सहभागिनी हो, सहचारिणी हो, सबला हो, सारथी हो तुम। ओ स्त्री, स्वयं के बारे में सोचो, सोचने को स्वार्थ के नाम पर छोड़ दो। इस सृष्टि का तुम ही कारण हो, तुम ही निवारण हो। अपनी शक्ति की खुद पहचान बनो, ऊंचाई का वो आसमान बनो। कि आसमान कहे, कि आसमान कहे, मुझे पुल्लिंग समझना छोड़। And this poem has been written by some Preeti Gupta, and she has aptly described here. But ultimately, when you hear such poems, such lines, such nice lines, these are such nice lines we have heard time and again. But when we move in bazaars, you can easily find Eve teasing there. This is very common. Hooting, whistling, this is very common. I would like to mention here one film, Mardani. And this is the film. In the end part of the film, Rani Mukherjee characters, who is an SCP, she catches the culprit, and and after the film ends, there are so many data on the screen. The rape data, the crimes against women data, and then Rani has very aptly has put the agony of the women on the screen. You should see that. Now, as I was quoting, that now these days marginalized do speak, but now the issue is that these voices go unheard. They don't get justice. So, in this new normal condition, pandemic, we have found that human values are so important. In this testing time, we find that there are, yes, there are so much of pain, agony, unemployment there, but yes, there are rays of hope. You can see the viral memes on Sonu Sood. If there are persons who are manhandling the laborers, and I think for some time we should thank media, but sometimes the media, and here the media is also not solely responsible. The viewers are also solely responsible, because there are good news on DD News, but no one spare time to watch that. It is free on your TV, but nobody watches that. So that means the people love drama. So now I have spoke so lot, um, and now it's time for the speaker, ma'am, who has been here from the first moment of this webinar, and I appreciate her. She's such a nice gem I can see. I have heard her in a webinar, and there I interacted with her, and now I was so mesmerized with her talk. She has such optimistic views that is much needed at this hour. So the platform is all yours, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me, ma'am.
Thank you very much. It's a real honor
And
and a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. Now, in relation to the topic of this webinar, I thought that a good subject to deal with was transcendentalism, because it is intimately connected with the idea of peace, with the idea of equality, and the idea of communication between the different sides and the different facets of society. But before understanding transcendentalism and delving into it, it will be necessary to give you a very, very short and synthetic overlook of the context in which transcendentalism bloomed. The context is the America of the 19th century, which is an America that started off 2 centuries before as a Puritan state, then developed into a state that nurtured liberty with independence, and then with transcendentalism, it developed different other facets of its collective personality. Now, Puritan America. Puritan America was an America that divided the population instead of joining the population and uniting the population, because when the Puritans arrived in America starting from 1620, they found themselves in a situation in which it was necessary to protect their individuality, their identity, and therefore everybody that was different, any person that nurtured any different idea, was persecuted and was ostracized and sent away from society. This is the period of the persecution of the heretics. This is the period of the Salem witch trial. And religion, in this particular respect, was something that divided the population instead of uniting it. In the America of that period, there were different big states, the Anglican state, the Puritan state, the Quaker state, and they were all fighting for supremacy. And therefore, religion was considered as an identifying factor that, instead of creating bonds, because the very term religion comes from Latin religo, which is join, unite. So instead of creating bonds, religion was creating boundaries. So it was separating people from people in order to protect and enhance one's identity. Now, this concept changed dramatically in the period immediately before the American Revolution. And why is that? Because the Americans realized that unless they were joined together, unless they joined forces, unless they had one common goal, they had no chance to survive. They had no chance to rebel against the mother country. So, Benjamin Franklin actually changed the concept and the conception of religion. In his autobiography, which obviously was published posthumously in 1781, in his autobiography, he underlined the fact that up until that moment, religions had divided the population. And what he fostered was something that could unite, join all the common elements of every religion, because every religion is based on the concept of good, is based on the concept of social welfare, is based on the concept of mutual protection. And therefore, Benjamin Franklin, in order to create the American identity and no longer the Puritan identity, the Quaker identity, the Anglican identity, created a sort of list of rules that every person had to follow. And these rules stemmed from all the known religions, which he studied, because he said, we cannot possibly judge another religion unless we know it, unless we know it's found in texts. And therefore, this is what he did. He read all the texts of Hinduism, also the texts of all the Western religions, the texts of Buddhism, and he created a synthesis that could pave the way towards peace and unity, because peace was considered by him as the most important element of the American independence. So if there was no peace amongst the Americans, there could not be any independence and any American identity. And this is something that even nowadays Americans should remember. Instead of fighting one another, we should find elements in common. But transcendentalism actually changed the whole universe. Some of you mentioned in the chat Wordsworth and the idea also of connection with nature, the idea of connecting one another and therefore finding peace towards a mutual idea of brotherhood. This is absolutely true, because transcendentalism was influenced by British Romanticism, but it was very much influenced also by Hinduism. And I will delve deeper into that. First of all, transcendentalism was based on one concept, which could release mankind and the American population from centuries of burden. What is this main assumption? The main assumption is that all men inside themselves have got a divine spark. So all of us inside have this kind of divine spirit. Therefore, there is no difference between me and any other person, because we all have the same divine spark. So this is a very important element which created the premises for peace, for communication, for bonding between Americans. The first author, the first thinker, who was a philosopher, was a public speaker, and was a professor also at University of Harvard for a very short period. The first person who really fostered the ideas of transcendentalism as the ground for universal peace was Ralph Waldo Emerson, who is probably one of the founding fathers of America. So Ralph Waldo Emerson became known as the wise man of Concord, because he lived in Concord and everybody used to go to Concord just to listen to him. He started off his career as a preacher in a very particular moment of transition from Trinitarianism to Unitarianism. Trinitarianism is the religious principle of all the Christian religions, according to which God is Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. So there is a Trinity. The Father, who became human, so the Son, and he became human to wash the sins of mankind, and then the Holy Ghost. In this period, religion changed a lot in America, passing from Trinitarianism to Unitarianism, that is, acknowledging only God as Father, because men were no longer burdened by original sin. So this conception changed completely the idea of religion in America. So Emerson found himself a bit in trouble because he could not understand anymore the figure of Christ and the figure of the Holy Ghost. And therefore, he went to Britain, he met Wordsworth and Coleridge, he spoke with them about nature, he spoke with them about the idea of God that pervades everything, and then he went back to America and published in 1836 exactly the essay that one of you, Dr. Gupta, is mentioning in the chat. That is Nature, 1836. In Nature, he highlighted the fact that there is no difference between men, women, and men and women of any color and ethnicity, and there is no difference between man and nature, and man, nature, and God, because all participates of the same substance. And this is really incredible and groundbreaking, because if you think that up until 10, 15, 20 years before, there were still fights for religion, you understand what kind of quiet revolution Emerson brought about by saying that we are all the same, and we are all the same in communion with nature and all the other creatures, because all of us are pervaded by the idea of God. And he drew very, very much from Hinduism. So he was very much influenced. So probably I am talking about something that resonates with you more than when I speak to an Italian audience or to an international audience. Because, for example, Italian students find it difficult to understand the concept of karma also, which was included by Emerson in his speculation in order to foster peace. Exactly this. I'm going to delve into that. Now, after publishing Nature, he was invited by the University of Harvard to deliver a talk to the freshmen. Obviously, Emerson had studied at Harvard, and he had studied divinity, theology at Harvard. So everybody was expecting from him a speech in which he would wax lyrical about studying at Harvard, studying divinity. Instead, when he arrived, and it was the 15th of July of 1838, in front of this massive audience of students who were really eager to listen to his talk, he actually said the opposite. What you are doing is a waste of time. There is no need to study, or there is no need to listen to somebody else. What you can do is studying individually, and most of all, what you can do is looking into yourself, because into yourself there is God, or into your mate's soul, because also into his interiority there is God. Obviously, the authorities at Harvard did not appreciate this talk, and Emerson was banned for 30 years from Harvard. He could not set a foot in Harvard, but actually his talk inspired many, many young people who understood that there is no reason to fight the other, because the other is not the other, it's just a different part of yourself. We are all interconnected. And this is something that even nowadays we should remember. We are all interconnected. What we do to nature will come back to us. And even this pandemic is showing it to us. The fact that the glaciers are melting in the north, in the poles, this is going to affect the life of everybody. So whatever happens to nature will affect our life. Whatever happens to even a different country eventually will affect us. So the idea of peace is also an idea connected with utilitarianism. It is not just something very utopic and idealistic. Your welfare is my welfare. And this is something very practical that Emerson tried to teach through his papers, through his essays, and through his narratives. He also, as I told you, explored very much what in Hinduism, in Hindu culture, would be called karma. He doesn't call it karma. He calls it law of compensation. And actually, he wrote an essay entitled Compensation, which delved into this subject. This also is very important for peace, for enhancing the idea of peace. Because if I tell you that whatever you do will eventually come back to you, so if you behave nicely towards somebody, everything good will come back to you. Or if you behave in a very insensitive, selfish way, eventually this will all come back to you. This is something that enhances peace. Obviously, whatever I pour into the world will be given back to me. And this is what Emerson tried to highlight in his essay entitled Compensation. So you always have to do to the others what you would like the others to do to you. So you cannot attack, you cannot be aggressive, you cannot undermine the life and welfare of other human beings, because whatever you give to the universe will give it back to you. So this is another tessera that composes this wonderful mosaic about peace that Emerson tried to construct, tried to build for the sake of everybody. He also reflected in his works, he reflected on the figure of Christ and the figure of the Holy Ghost, because as I told you, we passed from Trinity to unity, and then people were puzzled, who is Christ and who is the Holy Ghost? He gave an answer to that. Christ is nothing but a man who was able to develop to the utmost the divine spark that we all have inside us. So everybody can become as good, as peaceful, as worthy as Christ. Everybody. So Christ is a human model we all have to aim at. As far as the Holy Ghost, he actually incorporated this idea, merged the idea of the Holy Ghost with the Hindu concept of the Brahman Atman, this huge universal soul that we are all part of. So the idea of the Holy Ghost is the idea of a universal soul that envelops the world. And as I said before, we have to realize that we are all interconnected. You know, if we all realized that we are all the same and our life has an impact on the life of other people and vice versa, then there would not be any need to speak about peace, because it would be obvious. It would be obvious. It's just man's greed and selfishness that somehow prevents us from seeing what should be clear in front of everybody's eyes. We are all the same, and we are all a huge family, which includes the family of animals and the family of nature. In Italy, for example, one of the major sources of pollution is intensive farming. In Italy, many people eat animals. I don't personally. I chose long ago to be vegetarian. So intensive farming, which is the exploitation of animals, the exploitation of nature, is actually coming back to us in the shape of karma, because it is creating massive pollution. So Emerson somehow started also this eco-critical perception of the world, which is very modern, and no matter that, is very much overlooked by ordinary people. Anyway, transcendentalism is not just Ralph Waldo Emerson, but this idea of interconnectedness and peace was also developed by his most important disciple, who was Henry David Thoreau, who also focused very much on nature and connection between man and nature, and the peace among the different ethnicities through the mutual support and mutual participation in this huge human family. The most important work that he wrote is entitled Walden, or Life in the Woods, which describes his experiment on Walder Pond, where he lived on his own for 2 years in harmony with nature, building his own house, growing his own vegetables, exchanging beans for rice with the Native Americans, and living in peace with the world. What he teaches is not just self-reliance, which is another concept that is very much connected with transcendentalism. He also taught the idea that life is now, here and now, which is a concept that when I try to explain it to my students, they find it hard to understand. But it is also very much connected with the idea of peace. Why is life here and now? Here and now, as he said, is the only thing we have. We have no past, because the past is gone. The future is uncertain, and therefore every moment has to be lived with the enthusiasm of the first moment and the awareness of the last moment. If we live wisely and if we live sensibly in this way, then we realize that whatever we do has an impact on other people's lives. And we can do a lot also to lift the burden of other fellow human beings that might be in need. So we don't need to postpone. Oh, yes, okay, I will do it in the future. I will deal with this project in the future. I will help other people in the future. No, only we have here and now. So here and now we have to work for peace. We have to work for mutual wellness. We have to work together for our human family. He also wrote a very important essay, which actually explains very much the period in which he lived, which is a period of huge racial tensions that America, for example, is experiencing at the moment. At the moment, a relationship between blacks and whites is really tense in America. And with the election of the new president in November, things will change one way or the other, I'm afraid. So something will have to change. The situation will have to be addressed. And Thoreau addressed these very tensions between whites and blacks actually in two essays. One entitled On the Duty of the Civil Disobedience, and another one entitled A Plea for Captain John Brown. On the Duty of the Civil Disobedience actually didn't deal with the relationship with the blacks, but with the Mexican, because in that period, it was 1848, America was trying to stretch its territories and its influence over the lands that belonged to the Mexican. And he opposed to that, because I mean, he wanted to preach and foster respect for all the other human beings. And by quoting the Declaration of Independence, he actually opposed the law according to which every American was taxed to finance this war. And he said, I don't believe in this war. I don't believe in the justness of this war. And therefore, according to the Declaration of Independence, it is not just my right, but it is my duty to rebel. And he rebelled, and he didn't pay the tax because it didn't correspond to his idea of one human family. As far as a plea for Captain John Brown is concerned, this essay was written to plead the cause of John Brown, who had tried to stir a revolt among the African Americans so that they could claim their independence, they could claim their freedom. Obviously, the revolt had finished with no serious consequence, but the fact that John Brown was actually arrested and eventually executed. But in his talk, Thoreau wanted to say that Captain John Brown was not a riotous man. He was just trying to protect the rights of other human beings who were treated as if they were animals, as if they were beasts. The last writer I would like to talk to you about, because he is actually the epitome of transcendentalism, and is a writer that everybody loves actually, is Walt Whitman, because he resonates very much with everybody. I mean, with every age, every ethnicity, everybody identifies with Whitman's lines. Now, why do I say that he epitomizes the concept of peace, of transcendentalism? Because he did not just want to be an American poet or the American poet. He wanted to be the poet of the world. For the first time, he launched the idea that there is no America, there is no Europe, there is no Asia, but there is just the world we all belong to. And if you think of his most important collection, which grew actually with him, because this is a collection that accompanied him throughout his life. If you think of the title of that, you will understand absolutely this concept. The concept of leaves of grass. Why do I say world poetry? Leaves of grass are not just all the same, because the idea of leaves of grass is the idea of equality. Men and women can be equated to leaves of grass because we are all the same. But leaves of grass grow exactly in the same way, with the same color and the same shape everywhere in the world. And this is exactly what he wanted to say. We are a human family. What he calls in one of his poems, my own delicious burden. Why a burden and why delicious? Delicious because the intercourse with other human beings is a source of happiness for all of us. We are all suffering at the moment for the fact that interaction, face-to-face interaction is limited. I am personally suffering very much for the fact that I cannot teach in flesh, in person to my students, but I have a virtual class. So I try very much to convey the same passion and the same love and the same warmth to my student, but it's difficult because there is a screen between me and them. So delicious, but also a burden. A burden because we all have to be responsible for one another. The burden is the burden of responsibility. We all are responsible for other fellow creatures. Whatever we do has an impact. Whatever we do not do has an impact. And when Walt Whitman spoke of my own delicious burden, implied exactly this. I cannot be light-hearted when it comes to mankind, because I have the responsibility, because my actions have an impact on everybody else's lives. So this fosters the idea of peace, because if I realize that every action, every thought, every undertaking has an impact, a global impact, then I will think wisely and I will act more wisely. And before starting a war or starting a form of antagonism, I will think twice, because I will realize that whatever happens to the other eventually will happen to me. So we are all absolutely interconnected. So Walt Whitman actually worked on his collection of poems, as I mentioned to you, whole his life, because he wanted to convey the message that poetry is not something that you print on paper and then you forget all about it. Poetry evolves, poetry changes. Poetry is like a creature, a living creature that grows. And so his collection of poems grew. And he was very, very sensitive to the concept of peace and war. And when the Civil War broke out, he decided for the first time to change the color of the cover of Leaves of Grass. The cover of Leaves of Grass has always been green, to imply the connection with nature, obviously. But during the Civil War, when he published it, he decided to use a red cover, because the soil we all thread, the planet we all inhabit, was stained with the blood of so many people. So he wanted to give a strong message to his readership. He wanted to say this war is unjust, and it stems, like any other war, from the fact that we are sometimes incapable of communicating. And instead of looking like Benjamin Franklin did, looking at what joins us together, we focus on the differences. And obviously focusing on the difference is easier. And it gives you immediate satisfaction, because you, in a way, support your own identity by saying that you're different from another person. But if we think in long term, we realize that if we look at connections, if we look at points in common, topics of communication, things that we can share, projects that we can nurture together, then in the long run, then the whole humanity will benefit from that. Walt Whitman also changed the idea of the relationship that every person has with his or her own body. And this is also connected with the topic of peace and with modern times, and I will explain to you why. Nowadays, I don't know about India, but in Italy, for example, but in Europe and also in America, it's very widespread, the concept, the terrible concept of body shaming. If you don't conform to certain standards, if you're not slender, if you're not tall, if you're not fit, then you are ridiculed, you're belittled, and your body is considered as a source of shame. So we are not talking about a war here, but we are talking about antagonism between human beings. In Italy, for example, many people, many students every year die out of bullyism. They commit suicide, they kill themselves because their body is ridiculed by their fellow schoolmates. Whitman, in Leaves of Grass, celebrates the body. He celebrates the body of every shape, every color, every size, because the body is the visible part of our soul. And it has therefore to be celebrated, because we celebrate our interiority, we celebrate our soul, because our soul, in a way, inside we all have God, but the body is just the soul that we can perceive through the senses. And therefore, it has to be celebrated exactly in the same way as we glorify our soul and our interiority. And therefore, he also chose, when he published The Leaves of Grass, the first time, he chose not to write his name. He didn't write Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. He just wrote the title, and instead of writing his name, he inserted a picture of himself. A picture of himself dressed as a peasant, and with a hat, with no jacket, with a plain shirt, normal, like everybody else, because he wanted his readership to understand that he was one human being to be glorified in all its facets. And with this, I think that time is up. So I really thank you for your attention. And I am here for you if you have any queries, any curiosities, any questions. And thank you very much again.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an enriching and engrossing deliberation. I would quote Shakespeare: "When wasteful war shall overturn, when wasteful war shall overturn and broils root out the work of mercenary, nor Mars' sword, nor war's quick fire shall burn the living record of your memory." And here, memory is not of Shakespeare's patron, but I am talking about you now. Thank you so much for giving such a nice deliberation. And
Thank you.
you have touched everything here in such a lucid manner that I think each and every student even can understand you very easily. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
I can see in the chat box there are so many questions, and I'm just seeing that Jyotirma's ma'am comment that she's saying immense gratitude for your talk and enlightenment. I'm really indebted to Jyotirma ma'am. Actually, I wanted her to be co-host, but since she's very busy right now, that's why it couldn't happen. But really, I'm very thankful.
Hi, Arpa,
Thank,
I'm here. I'm listening to you all. I'm
thank you, ma'am.
commenting
Thank
as
you, ma'am.
well. I'm
Thank you, ma'am.
co-hosting. It
Yes,
was wonderful. Elizabeth,
Thank you
it was
so much.
wonderful. I enjoyed every bit. I'm so lucky that I joined just before you started, and it was wonderful.
Thank you
It
so
was
much. Thank you so
simply
much.
mind-blowing, and
and
something that I do
audience,
agree with you.
to the
Transcendentalism,
audience here,
global vision, our oneness, the world is one, all humanity is one. That's the only way we can survive.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
And also the responsibility of literature to
thank you so
continue
much,
to
ma'am.
foster that.
And
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
so nice. Now, to the audience, you can view on the banner and you can recognize who they are on your screens. And due to some technical reasons, George Onsi sir couldn't join us today. Uh, uh, and one more thing, uh, the one thing that I have noticed that this is the new normal, and uh, the people who are over age means they are above 65 years. And George Orsi sir is one of such a magnificent person I have met. He has prepared so engrossing presentation, which we will see tomorrow, and I really couldn't resist. And now, coming to the presentation of Elizabeth ma'am, there are so much questions here. You can select randomly from the chat box, or I will please, Elizabeth ma'am, are you there?
Yes, 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 yes.
Just keep on your video.
Do you want me to stop the video?
No, no, you should start your video. Please start your
Okay.
video.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Okay. So because
Oh, yes.
spotlight is
We
on
can.
you,
Wonderful.
Okay.
I will read. Can you find the questions in the chat box?
Yes, I'm reading the questions now. There is, dear speaker, thanks you for your elaborative and informative talk in connection to Walt Whitman. I'm a bit intrinsic to know that what kind of effect Whitman had made on the poet after him. Because it was Whitman who had transcended the concept of poetry, but what after him in the sense of tradition? Well, in actual fact, Whitman tried to launch this idea, and for the rest of the 19th century, the words of Whitman resonated very much. Whitman actually died at the end of the 19th century. The 20th century brought about so many catastrophes, so much fragmentation, that and so much disappointment and disillusionment, that if you think, for example, of Edgar Lee Masters, he actually reversed this idea because he realized that men had perverted Whitman's ideas. And therefore, he dug deeply into the roots of America, which are the Puritan roots of America, which are also the roots of compromise, the roots of the facade, the fact that we are not really genuine to one another. And he showed that clearly in the Spoon River anthology. So in a way, he pursued the same goal as Whitman, but subtly, because he wanted America to realize how hypocritical America was, how fake human relationships were, how many difficulties there still were to consider humankind as a family, as a huge family. So he had an impact, but this impact at times was submerged. So I hope I answered the question. Now, there is another speaker. Now, what are the differences between American transcendentalism and British romanticism? Yes. Okay. Obviously, there are points of connection. The love for nature, for example, is an important point of connection between English Romanticism and American Romanticism. And as I told you, Emerson himself met met Wordsworth and Coleridge. One aspect that is completely missing from American Romanticism, which is transcendentalism, is the dark side. For example, all the appeal to mystery, this is completely absent. If you think of Coleridge, for example, or if you think also of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, this is not part of Romanticism. This dark side was employed very much by novel writers like Herman Melville, for example, or Nathaniel Hawthorne, and also in short stories like those by Edgar Allan Poe. But this dualism, which lives together in every romantic writer, is absent. In American literature, there is this split. Either connection with nature, optimism, or the dark side. Whereas romantic writers, English romantic writers, nurtured both at the same time. So that, I would say, is the most important difference between British and American Romanticism. Now, another person from the audience was asking the difference between transcendentalism and Puritanism. They're like two different planets. According to Puritanism, religion is an identifying factor. So if I don't belong to the same religion, then I am different, then I am the enemy. Transcendentalism tried to redress this wrong. Religion is an important factor, but we have to highlight the elements in common that all the religions have, so that we can create one human family. So one divided and the other one joined and united. I hope I replied to the question. I don't know whether there is any other question.
Definitely, ma'am. Definitely, ma'am. All the doubts. Actually, I think you have described so lucidly that they are engrossed, and so they have no questions left. So, but I would like to ask one thing. One phrase you have told.
You're breaking up. I can't hear you well.
Delicious burden, and really I want to. Okay. Let me. Since my network is unstable.
Maybe if you can write your question in the chat box,
am I
so I
audible,
can read it. Yeah, you can write it.
Okay.
And I will address it immediately. Delicious burden, yes. Okay, a burden normally is not delicious. So this is like an oxymoronic sentence, oxymoronic phrase, delicious burden. For Walt Whitman, mankind is his own delicious burden, because at the same time, it is the source of so much delight, because it is wonderful to have human intercourse with other fellow creatures. But at the same time, it is a burden because we have to be wary, we have to be aware of the fact that whatever we do has an impact on other people's lives. So we cannot simply do whatever we feel like doing without thinking of the consequences that would have on anybody else. So this is why it is delicious, because it's the source of pleasure, and a burden because it implies the fact that I have to be aware of my responsibility, which any other human being. Okay, so I don't live on my own on this planet. We are all interconnected. Okay, so I hope I answered. During this new normal, what norms do you suggest for humanity? Okay, what norms do I suggest for humanity? First of all, I think that we should go back to these texts to understand that the problems we are facing are problems that somebody else faced before us, and already we have a track to follow. If we read Transcendentalism now, it can be very useful to realize how important our connection with nature is, and how important our connection with other human beings is. So literature is important, and as teachers, as professors, when we choose the courses, when we choose the books to delve into in our syllabi, we should think not just of convey notions to our students, but how to create better human beings, because this is exactly what we need now. We need to educate people to become better persons. This is important. Literature otherwise loses what is one of the most important aims, a social purpose, a social aim. I don't know whether there is any other question or any other comment, remark.
I think there are so many compliments, ma'am. Everyone
Thank
is
you.
saying there are so many compliments that you have explained so beautifully, and all are amazed and mesmerized to listen to you. And you have such a nice voice and aura that binds us. Really, this is amazing. And
Thank you so much.
when I thought that I would present to you the audience. Actually, as I have planned, it hasn't gone that way, because there were so many technical glitches in the initial part of this webinar, since it was raining cats and dogs. So now, grace to the God that it has stopped raining and now the network is stable. I have quoted Shakespeare sonnet, and actually I wanted to just here hint on the lineage of the heritage of Italy, heritage of Italy, from where you belong, because it was Petrarchan sonnets that have inspired Shakespeare, and obviously he has made some changes. But yes, it was Italy at that time, and now in these days of pandemic, I find you also to be one of driving force of hope, because I find you so on so many online classes in India, and you are delivering lectures, and they're
I'm
so
actually
amazing.
enjoying it very much. I'm really enjoying it very much. I even taught a course of American literature at Audo University. I've just finished it, and it was wonderful
And
to
so
interact with the students. It was really, really wonderful. Really wonderful. I really enjoyed
really,
it.
so for us in India, where it was really impossible to reach you in this time of pandemic, I think this has come as boon in disguise of this pandemic. But still, we have to adapt to all the new normal, and I think we are gradually adapting to it. And I hope and pray that definitely through the literary sojourn, through the poetries, through the inspirations of people, through the positive energies that you have shown here. And I have found a question on the YouTube link, and it is very interesting. In spite of highlighting the exploitation of nature by many writers since time immemorial, it has continued. What is your take on this? I repeat, in spite of highlighting the exploitation of nature by many writers since time immemorial, it has continued. What is your take on this?
Well, that's exactly what I said before. We need to go back reading traditional texts, also under the light of what we are living at the moment. This pandemic actually stems from the exploitation of nature. And as I told you, in Italy, it spread specifically in the areas which were more polluted. So in actual fact, with my students, I reread a novel by Mary Shelley entitled The Last Man, which actually deals with a pandemic that spreads and kills everything but the nature and the animals. So kills everybody. I mean, at the end of the novel, there is just one person who contracted the disease and survived, and he, the last man of the title. But it is interesting to notice that Mary Shelley describes nature that was beforehand exploited and suffocated by pollution, the pollution of factories, that when men begin to die one after the other, nature blooms, nature thrives. So this is a very potent message that we have ignored. If we take into the fact also that Mary Shelley wrote this novel in 1826, but she set it in the future in 2073, we can understand how ominous it was and how insensitive we were in neglecting her message. So literature is important. Literature as a real social function, and reading literature and teaching literature can help us to live in a better world.
Yes, these are the nice lines for ending of this technical session 1. And I will request participants to please share your reactions uh, on Telegram group as well, so that it will be easy for me to convey to ma'am the reactions which I'm being. There are so many reactions, and I find it amazing. As I was mesmerized, and I think definitely everyone are. So actually, I was so engrossed listening you that I didn't notice that time has. It was experienced that time is just flying. Uh, so it was really that timelessness which we feel when we listen something interesting. We feel timelessness, and that is what whenever I listen you. And I would like to mention here the poems of Jyotirma ma'am. Actually, she's so active, she's so prolific writer, and really, and she is there from the first second of this webinar. And she's continuing trying because despite here was some network issues, but still she was there. And I will really appreciate the punctuality of Elizabeth ma'am. And I will ask my dear countrymen to please be punctual in the tomorrow session, so that we can also be punctual like
Elizabeth.
Ma'am, Elizabeth, ma'am, session. Thank you so much for the session. And further, we will definitely connect with you, ma'am. To in the tomorrow session, we have two technical speakers, Jyotirma ma'am, Jyotirma Thakur ma'am, and George Onsi sir. And there will be some distinguished guests for valedictory session. And I'll request you, Elizabeth ma'am, that please join us for the valedictory at 5:30.
I will do
5:30
my
Indian.
best. Yes.
I hope tomorrow will be the day that there will be no more technical glitches. And I will try one more time that the dance, the video which I have, my students have made with so much of labor can be played tomorrow. And I will sort out the technical glitches there. And I hope everyone that be safe and stay blessed. And thank you so much from here, ma'am. And I'm really indebted. I have no words to say. And
It was
now,
my
with
pleasure,
these
really. It was
words,
my
I
pleasure.
would like to request everyone to please. Thank you so much, ma'am. You are so generous. And I will request each and every participant, please fill the feedback form very carefully, because it will count for the certificate which is meant for you. And when you are submitting the certificates, please do check your spellings in your names. And these feedback forms will be considered as your attendance. So please be careful while filling this feedback form. And I hope tomorrow we will join at 2 p.m. Since many of the speakers has not joined us due to technical glitches, I'll try that I can put the video of those speakers, especially my mentor, ex-HOD, Dr. K. He's my mentor, and he has very aptly described the concept note of this webinar. And I hope that you will like to listen him, and I will add it in the YouTube recorded the YouTube session. I will edit it, and I hope you find this webinar important, informative. Thank you everyone for joining us. It's signing off, Department of English, Dr. Arpana. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us.